Worst case scenario, Trump. I want to bring all these guys to heel. Like, that strategy made sense to me. I'm going to pick Gates and Hegseth, and I'm going to humiliate these people, and they will lick my feet, and they will support the most preposterous defense secretary in the history of the republic, and they will like it. And instead, this is kind of like, well, whatever, I'm down in Mar-a-Lago. Whoever shows up on TV or comes to my parties, I'm going to nominate. And if they can't make it through, that's their problem, and maybe I'll do something else. It's just not a show of strength. We've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Layke, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. Moisturizing's important, though. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Recently, Dr. Layke has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices so he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. It's almost like Photoshop your face. You may even be mad after seeing how easy it is to visibly erase your wrinkles from view. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method because it can take years off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Layke has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. If this helps one person look younger or feel more confident, I'll be thrilled knowing I helped, Dr. Layke said. So far, the comments and feedback have been outstanding. Thousands of women reporting they look decades younger. One said that it was the best results of anything they've used. They can't believe how well it works. They'll never stop using this. They don't understand how it works, but the results are great. So you can find out more about this yourself. Go to bhmd1.com/next. Or click on the link in the description box below. That's bhmd1.com/next. If watching this video helps you look and feel younger than you have in years, then please share it with your friends and loved ones. Together, we have the power to help as many women and men reclaim a youthful look as possible. Go to the video at bhmd1.com/next right now, or just click on the link in the description box below.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. And Sarah, you are all dolled up because you just literally moments ago
dolled up? Are we doing dolled
walked
up?
off stage at the Dealbook Summit in New York. And we're doing this live. I want to hear all about it because you were with some really fun people, right?
You guys, I need you guys to hear this panel so that you can tell me what just happened, because I blacked out at some point. And here's the funniest thing that happened, though, was the point at which I was yelling. Oh, I interrupted Kevin McCarthy to say that he lied to people about the 2020 election. And he turned to Maggie Haberman and goes, "Who is this person?" Like, I'd have never heard of her. And
who is on the panel?
I'm Sarah Longwell. Say my name, bitch.
Let me tell you about this panel. Let me tell you about this panel. Let me just, I'll lay it out.
I need a roster.
Okay. The panel was, here, I've got the little sheet thing. Sitting next to me, and the one I interacted with negatively the most was Kellyanne Conway.
Did you tell her, hey, I do a podcast with now?
She told me I was miserable. And
in the green room or
back at you,
in
baby.
public?
Yeah. In public she was vicious. But I do think she said the miserable thing after at the end. Anita Dunn, who was Joe Biden's.
Also, somebody else you probably have a great relationship with.
You know what? She was the senior advisor to Joe Biden. Major Garrett, so there were journalists. So Major Garrett was on there. And then we had, he's from CBS. Margaret Hoover was on.
Margaret Hoover.
I really appreciated because she had to break in as Kellyanne wouldn't let me talk. She kept just like shouting, "Oh, you just need to raise more sugar daddy money for your fake focus groups." And so it was pleasant like that. Alexis McGill Johnson, who's the CEO of Planned Parenthood, was on there. Van Jones, John Carl. So he's the, Chief Washington. So there's like a million of us, guys.
They're all
like
on stage together at the same time?
All of us together.
This is an enormous panel.
Then there's me. Then there's Kevin McCarthy. And actually, Kevin McCarthy and I share a page on this little thingamabobber. Jason Miller of the Trump administration. Okay, so it was Jason, Kellyanne, and Kevin for the Trump side. It was actually, Anita was kind of on her own on the Biden side. And then you had the journalists, John Carl, Major Garrett, and who was the other one I said? John Carl, Major Garrett.
Maggie Haberman.
Whatever. And then, Van Jones. Yeah, and then Maggie's moderating. And I think I don't think I'm getting invited back, guys. And I think it's okay.
That's the best.
Honestly, if you were getting invited back to a panel with those people, I would be disappointed in you. So I hope that you're right.
Here's the thing, though. I just, so I'm going to tell you guys a few things that I think about things like this, which, I do some of these, we do the Atlantic, whatever. So, you are pleasant to people, whatever. You have to sit in green rooms with people that I do this at CNN. I've sat in the green room with Scott Jennings. However, I couldn't make myself be like a congenial participant. I should have maybe, I don't know if I'm disappointed in myself or proud of myself. Honestly, I don't know. I literally I just walked back the 2 blocks from where I was, and I don't know if I'm disappointed in myself or proud of myself, but I was a nightmare. I accused Kevin McCarthy of resurrecting Donald Trump, lying to the American people. They kept saying America's lost faith in the media. And I was like, maybe that's because you say the media is the enemy of the people. They say they've lost faith in the FBI. I said, maybe it's because you called them deep state. You lied to them. Told Kellyanne Conway, I might have said she was a bad person at one point. Like she was, because she was
truth
after
is an
me.
affirmative
You guys,
defense.
She was after me so hard. She wouldn't let me talk. Margaret Hoover had to come in, but the part that there's 2 things. So I went so hard at Kevin and Jason and kind of out of the gate because the first question was.
Did you ask Jason about the child support payments?
No, I didn't do that. I wasn't doing personal, but I was going. At one point, Jason Miller said the following phrase: "Donald Trump is the biggest supporter of the First Amendment," and I'm sorry, but am I supposed to sit there and let comments like that stand? The first part where I jumped in, and I'm going to say, they didn't ask me a direct question. I just jumped in, and it was maybe at minute 7. But they were talking about the Hunter pardon. And you know what? I've been willing to take all the slings and arrows on the Hunter pardon, but listening to Kevin McCarthy and Jason Miller starts talking about the weaponization of the Justice Department. And I mean, I don't know if you know this, but it is Joe Biden's Justice Department that was prosecuting his son Hunter. So just there. But they're talking about the weaponization and then they're talking about the politicization of going after Donald Trump, the politicization of the justice. And I was like, Donald Trump lied about an election being stolen and then sicked a mob on the Capitol. Kevin, and you went down and resurrected him. You went down. You lied to people. And from the out of the gate. And then I was like, do people just let Jason Miller get away with these things? Does nobody challenge him on this stuff?
You said that?
Yes, I was bad.
Bad? You were amazing.
You don't know.
Is the
you
video of this
yet.
out? Was this live streamed?
I'm doing slow clap. That's how
you
good
guys,
this is.
I don't know if you should. I genuinely, first of all, I was listening to them.
Sarah, even if you behaved horribly, fuck these people, and then they need people to get in their chili. And by the way, you're also not alone. It's in the Bulwark spirit. I guess maybe I shouldn't speak but have somebody else. But I think that there was another Bulwark colleague of ours who had a private interaction with a Trump apologist recently. And I'll let them share that. But yeah, good. Somebody's got to do it. If it's not us, who?
I don't know. But the part that I really was... Kellyanne Conway got asked a question about Kash Patel. And Margaret Hoover, God bless her. I really like Margaret Hoover, and she was incredibly good on this panel. And she followed up and started to read the list of people that Kash Patel said he was going to prosecute. Because Jason Miller's on his talking points. So Jason Miller's saying, they elected us, to restore the border and help with the economy and all this stuff. But Kellyanne Conway got asked this direct question about the retribution, Kash Patel, and Margaret starts reading the list of people. And Kellyanne says, after ducking and weaving a little bit, she kind of has this long pause. And she's like, well, I don't know. Maybe some of them committed crimes. And I was like, no. And I was like, everybody stop. We have to be, what Kellyanne just said was chilling. She is not opposing it. And then she started to freak out. She's like, you're just trying to make news and, never Trumpers, always wrong. Like, she just starts like yelling at me. It was incredibly combative, antagonistic, unpleasant.
Whose idea was this panel? What was it? Can I get a little bit of the backstory?
It's the New York Times Dealbook.
Yeah, I understand that. But like, what was isn't that an economic summit? Like, I feel like the only time I ever see Dealbook like clips, it's like Andrew Ross Sorkin talking to like a CEO about something. I can't like recall a Royal Rumble style.
Yeah. Well, they didn't want it to be. That's the thing. They did not want it to be. And this is where I think it wasn't. I threw down the first gauntlet. Everybody else was going to be on their best behavior. But you know what? Honestly, what I couldn't bear. And I went in and I was like, I got tough words for Democrats. Like, I'm pissed about Joe Biden should never have run. And I'm going to say that. And I did say that. Like, it was 90 minutes long and we got into the things. And I said it was all the data supported it. Joe Biden shouldn't have run. It was a huge mistake. But like, Anita was sort of copping to a lot of that. Like, she was being, I think, incredibly fair-minded. When they all started attacking her on the weaponization as she answered the pardon question, and honestly, her answer was good. And maybe even sort of where, as I've been thinking about it, like her answer was basically like, look, there was no world in which he wasn't, like, I would have pardoned you're going to pardon your kid. He loves his son. But like the way he did it, the timing of it, his argument for it, she said it was all wrong. And it is. He could have pardoned
Anita
Hunter.
Said that?
Yes.
Good for her.
She was great. And I think she made it clear she wasn't with the campaign anymore. And then she focused on the fact that like just dropping this in the weekend of Kash Patel being nominated was terrible, that his reasoning was bad, and that he should have pardoned Hunter at the end with all the other clemency people. Because she's like, look, Hunter Biden, he did things wrong. And she's like, but he shouldn't go to jail. He should not be prosecuted by these people. And like Joe Biden pardoning him with everybody else. And as I thought about it, it was actually the best case I had heard, way better than all the people just screaming on Twitter. Or on Blue Sky. Blue Sky's also, but the everybody's, yelling, you guys are obsessed with this, whatever. But like, it was the first question. And I thought she handled it incredibly well. And then to have Kevin McCarthy and Jason Miller jump on it to talk about the weaponization of the Justice Department, I lost my mind. And from then on, while I said my piece about how Joe Biden shouldn't have run, and that was the one thing, because there was a kind of a question about like, what are the ways Democrats could have won this election? And I was like, it is Joe Biden's fault. Like, Joe Biden should not have run. That was a mistake. They should have had a primary, should have been a bridge. And like, we litigated that probably for too long. And you know what? This is the one other point that I'll say. People who are like, one of the things on people are pushing back on is they're like, we should be talking about more important things. Now, I don't think people do not get to tell us what we get to care about and talk about. And
you're referring to the pardon right now? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking about the pardon and the fact that we have cared about it and we have talked about it. There's a lot of people that are just like, there are more important things. However, I will say I got very frustrated in this conversation about how, because the Democrats in the group, Van Jones, the woman from Planned Parenthood, they were very focused on sort of litigating the ways in which Democrats failed. And Anita she was, I think, much more, I don't know about forthright or whatever, but like, she was like, yeah, should have more about immigration. Like she wasn't sort of fighting a lot of the recriminations, but like we spent way too much time looking back and not nearly enough time looking forward. And so the part about Kash Patel was almost, there was a little bit too about like Matt Gaetz, like she asked Kevin McCarthy about that. And Kevin McCarthy was just there luxuriating in Matt Gaetz getting pulled from it, so he's happy as a clam, right? He's out. He doesn't have to deal with it. When I talked about him being responsible for resurrecting Trump post-coup, he said, thank you. I appreciate that because he's proud of it. And so it was, what I struggle with a little bit is the world of unreality that gets constructed among people who kind of go to these fancy big think events together. And like, I know I'm even sort of evaluating myself in real time on it, but like, I don't think it is not good to be combative for combative's sake, and I think that I was off vibe from everybody else. Everybody else was planning on having a conversation in which everybody treated each other somewhat delicately, right? And I basically decided, I guess, like, maybe they won't have me back, but I'm gonna say what I think to Kevin and Jason and not let them just like roll their talking points through us. But I'm not sure if I came off. Maybe I did come off like Kellyanne accused me of as miserable and angry, but.
This is just, I haven't seen it yet. So I'll give you a full grade report card as soon as I get to see it, which I will do the second it comes out. I will say this. Sometimes we get a lot of this navel gazing, like, what's the point of Never Trumpers? Or what is the point of this?
Oh, that was a question.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm interested in your answer. But one of my answers is, this is the point. We're free to say what we fucking think. All right, like there is a political.
I wish I had that answer at my fingertips. That was a good answer.
Yeah, there's a political mission, and like there's some of us directionally have ideology alignment, but like what we are is like people that do not have to participate in the fake Washington bullshit. We don't have to do it. Like that is the reason for us existing at the Bulwark and continuing to exist and speak, because it doesn't matter. None of us are going to be hired to be anybody's Anita Dunn. Like it's over. We burned ourselves already.
That's right.
And so the point of us is to do this, and we don't get invited to all of these things. And so when we do get invited, we should be the ones that puncture their fucking carefully constructed bubble you just laid out. And so that is, and my just one sentence about the complainers about us talking about the Hunter Biden or focusing on that is like, that's why it makes me mad when I hear that complaint, because it's like, fire that arrow at somebody else. fire that arrow at CNN. Like that is not a problem here, right? Like there's going to be no shortage of focus on the Donald Trump administration and doing recriminations about January 2021, which I'm going to be doing till I'm fucking 82 myself. All right. So that's what my recriminations are going to be. Not over the Joe Rogan podcast. Going to be the month of January 2021. That's going to be my life's work, is recriminating that. So anyway, I think that you should not have second thoughts about that at all. It is our purpose. There are plenty of people there. There are plenty of people that can be called to go and do Kevin, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your service, and I did think you made maybe some judgment calls I disagreed with. Like, plenty of people to do that. No shortage of people. Never Trumpers, we don't have to do that because we're unshackled from those limitations.
This year, gift yourself a better night's sleep in the softest, most luxurious sheets from Boll and Branch. This single upgrade will immediately change your sleep and bring you the most comforting bedding experience. Their signature sheets feel breathable, luxuriously soft, and they get softer with every wash. They have designs and colors for every bedroom style and mattress size. These all-season sheets have a breathable, unmatched softness to start, and they get softer with every wash. Plus, whether it's a gift to yourself or a loved one, their gorgeous packaging will make the holiday season even more special. That's actually very true. It's the unboxing experience on Boll and Branch is very, very pleasant. They go the extra mile to make it special when you're opening up these sheets, which is right, because the sheets are special. They're amazing. I'm a sheet snob, and Boll and Branch are the best, most comfortable sheets I've ever slept in. Gift you and your loved ones a better night's sleep with Boll and Branch. And right now is their best offer of the entire year. Shop the cyber event and get 25% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com/next level. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/next level for 25% off. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details. I'm so proud of you, Sarah.
You haven't even seen it yet. You don't know if you're proud of me. And honestly, I could have handled...
I do know. You let me speak for myself.
Better.
I am proud of you. Okay. And because this is... I really do detest the kabuki aspects of these sorts of things I don't detest it in all ways. Like, look, God knows, in 2014, I would have been happy to have, sat up on a panel with, a couple Obama advisors and then a couple Republican senators and Ben Sass and Joe, at the end of the day, we all go home and have a scotch together. Right? But that's not the world we live in anymore. And the stakes are incredibly high in ways they have not been since, I don't know, at least Jim Crow, maybe the Civil War. And I'm not going to pretend that Jason Miller and Kellyanne are they're just wearing the other jersey. They're not. These are bad people doing dangerous things that are going to affect real people. And so fuck them. And I'm glad you did that.
You know what was remarkable to me, though, and it sort of goes to Kevin. Kevin, was taken aback by me and did this thing where he was he was who is this person? I just learned who you were when coming in here because we share a page on this little bio sheet. But what was clear to me from Jason and...
Who are you, by the way? Do you have a job now, sir? Are you a car dealer?
Or I know, right? He's the former... He, it's clear that people don't get in their shit a lot.
No,
they expect to sit in those rooms and have everybody treat them like what they've done is normal.
And that's how this happens. Right. The kabuki aspect is part of how, because they think there's no price to be paid. There's no social price. They think they'll still be able to get their table at Spago. And I just none of this. This is frankly why I don't do a lot of TV, because if, CNN called me up and yeah, we'd like to have you on a panel with Scott Jennings. I'd just sit there and be yeah, why are we anybody listening to this asshole? Scott, stop lying. You're fucking ridiculous. And that's not what they want. I'm so proud of you for doing this.
A key part of my move, actually, in 2016 was Christmas party season in 2016. I couldn't go to the Christmas parties. I was doing what you were doing, but not on a panel in front of people, but in private at parties in fucking ballrooms at the Willard. And I had friends what are you doing? And I'm I'm supposed to just be nice to this person right now? And so I was I have to move from DC. I can't live here and just do this. But can I hear your answer to what is the point of Never Trumpers at this point? What did you end up saying?
So I said that, look, I said that I didn't think that
was
Never
a Maggie
Trump
question to you?
Yes. And honestly, I didn't really get to answer it because Kellyanne Conway was all over me. She basically was trying to keep me from answering the whole time, was trying to fit next to me, just and she muttered under her breath at everybody the whole time. She just she's so nasty. So my answer was look, I think that it's not really a helpful term. In 2016 and going into 2020, Never Trump was about a bunch of Republicans who refused to get on board with Trump. I was and we beat him because she had made this case that you guys, Never Trump, always wrong. You guys lost, blah, blah, blah. And I was and we beat him in 20. And I was and it's remarkable that Kevin is sitting here and seemingly admitting that Donald Trump lost in 2020 in his analysis, because that is not how he talks to the American people. He says Donald Trump won, he lies to them. And so I was doing this the whole time. People were catching shrapnel left and right as I was going. And I said, but it's not that helpful a term, because now, if Donald Trump runs in 2028, which he may do, he says he's pondering, whatever, I was our role really is around democracy. I think we have shifted to a place of how do we mitigate the damage of Trump? And she's sitting there going, that's ridiculous. There's no damage. Anytime somebody used language that would sort of trigger the idea that Donald Trump was abnormal outside the realm of politics, which, by the way, funny enough, as Margaret Hoover reminded me afterwards, Kellyanne Conway, one of the OG Never Trumpers. She was anti-Trump before. But I loved, she had jumped on me immediately saying they were fake focus groups saying Kamala Harris was going to win. And I was no, they didn't. I never said that. One of the things that I do regret, or I don't know if I regret it because it was true, but I do think I talked about this on my podcast with Ested. When I was talking about late breaking independence, I was thinking about our people, right? And I was listening to a lot of our people, the Trump to Biden voters. And those people were, at the end of the day, they were kind of making up their minds and going Harris. Not all of them, like I said, in every group you're losing a couple people, but they were breaking towards Harris. The problem was those people, that's the one group she held steady with, those college-educated suburban voters. Everybody else, the late-breaking independents were the non-college, working-class voters that broke overwhelmingly for Trump. Like those were the independents that ultimately broke his way. I think that was like a little bit of I always knew that was a possibility. I always knew that was like we didn't know what the electorate was going to look like. Like that was always the big unknown. That's what we know now that the election was over. But anyway, I did go on and say like, I thought that people were breaking toward Kamala Harris on Wolf Blitzer. And I sort of just wish I had a more nuanced answer about what I was really, it is what I was seeing, but it was also like, but we're still losing a couple people and, whatever. Anyway, but the idea that I was sort of like, she came in hard, like right away with like, you do fake focus groups. And then she said something about publicizing them. And so one of the things that happens though in these, she's like, yeah, well, I don't publicize them. I was like, you do focus groups. And the reason I publicize them is because people don't believe you. Like they don't believe that people think like this, sound like this. Like I want, and these people all agree to be publicized, by the way. Like they sign a waiver saying that their stuff can be used publicly, but they are, like you are trying to help people understand and get out of the bubble that they're in because people please do not
get in your head about Kellyanne fucking Conway trying to make an ethical attack on your work product. Okay, like
but we are going to talk about the focus groups later on in the show because guess who's got two thumbs and is going on the show this week?
Yeah. Oh my God. Ested and I did 90 minutes and didn't get through half of the content, and so we're gonna do a second half. And JVL is going to do it. The people ask for it. And I want you to hear what they're saying.
Oh, we listened to the Ested podcast. It was a marathon. I think you might need to change the name of the podcast to And Another Thing.
I will give you a little tickly tease later on. All right. Boy, Sarah, the only thing I would add is that you should have stood up mid-panel and done the Russell Crowe Gladiator. Are you not entertained? As you were just dropping bombs on these people.
What was the crowd like?
Oh, this is what I meant to tell you. There was no crowd. So there's this special, this was a new thing for them. So instead of being on the stage, what they did is we were in a room together, just all of us. So there's no crowd, there's no reaction. And and we're sitting at like one of those, like a half circle kind of table. And there's, you heard me read everybody, like there's 9 or 10 of us. Like there was 90 minutes. So be warned as you listen to this, you mostly hear other people talk for 90 minutes. Like I'm in there, but sparingly, just like the Van Jones probably got the most airtime because he jumps in, but like it was impossible to have,
How's the post game?
The post game, it's like people kind of retreat to their sides, like Kevin, Jason, Kellyanne, and I think they were all. I mean, it looked to me like it was just them being like, "Who is this person? Like, why does she suck so bad?" And I was chatting with Margaret and whatever.
Exciting.
It's amazing.
Actually, I wanted to get. But it's like there's all this rigmarole. It's like you got to get your headshot taken then and do an interview. The holidays are all about surprises, right? Well, today's sponsor, OneSkin, is really taking that to heart. As the first company to target skin aging at the cellular level, OneSkin wants to give you the gift of healthy aging free. Throughout the month of December, you'll get a free travel-size product valued at up to $42 with every order of $125 or more. The best part? You'll get a different gift every week. The difference between OneSkin's products and others on the market is that OneSkin is formulated with their proprietary OS1 peptide. This is a peptide the 4 founders, who are all skin longevity scientists, developed after testing 900 other ingredients, and it is scientifically proven to switch off the aging, dysfunctional cells that cause lines, wrinkles, and thinning skin. Whether you're on the hunt for the perfect gift or treating yourself, now is the time to try OneSkin. Because with every new purchase of $125 or more this month, you'll receive a free travel-size product, and it changes each week, so there's always a surprise gift waiting for you. For a limited time, save 15% off with the code THENEXTLEVEL when you check out at oneskin.co. This holiday season, invest in your skin's long-term health, because healthy aging is a gift. I love my OneSkin, and I love the little travel bag. I've got it with me here as I'm traveling to New York. It makes a great gift for other people, but I'm keeping mine for myself because I like it. And you guys should all give it a try too. It's nice to get something free. Founded and led by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists, OneSkin is redefining the aging process with their proprietary OS1 peptide, the first ingredient proven to help skin look, feel, and behave like its younger self. Get 15% off with code THENEXTLEVEL at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code THENEXTLEVEL. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Invest in the health and longevity of your skin with OneSkin. Your future self will thank you.
So while you were sitting on a throne of skulls, Pete Hegseth's mom went on to Fox and Friends.
Did she?
To beg for her son's job, and she fell on her sword and said that, look, she's not the same mother she was when she sent that email.
She's a bad one now?
I mean, I don't, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. For this guy, this alpha male, Pete Hegseth, to like make his mother go out onto TV to humiliate herself and make a direct appeal. She's like, especially to female senators, she says, and to Trump, to Mr. Trump, begging for her son's job.
Ew.
Come on, man.
It was the most humiliating thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I just hope it keeps going. I mean, I hope eventually he loses, but I don't want it to end today. I'm worried it might end today, and I need 3 more weeks of this till Christmas, because it is the most ludicrous nomination in the history of the Republic. Like, he was an absolutely comically horrific choice, and watching them all have to dance is a rare item of joy in my life right now. And she begins the interview with Ducey, and she's like, well, for starters, Steve, this email was 7 years ago, and we've all changed a lot in the last 7 years.
Changed so much.
I was like, 7 years? 7 years ago? I mean, he's like 47. It's 40. It's not like it's a 10-year-old being like, hey, 7 years ago when I was 3, I acted differently. I
used to eat paste. I'm not that guy anymore.
It's like wasn't that long ago. Time flies. But it's that, and then it's just, I mean, I'll give her this. She's pretty put together. I mean, she was doing, her answers were better than his have been in the hallway walks. Maybe she should have been a weekend talk show host, because it was like, oh man, this is such a deep cut, nobody will know it. But Molly Shannon plays the mother of a influencer on a TV show called The Other Two. And she had a Molly Shannon vibe, like on the other two, like kind of like, oh man, maybe she might, because Pete's not going to be hired back by Fox, is he? How could you do? I mean, I guess he could go
kind
back,
tough.
But imagine that first day back on the job.
But maybe
his
Fox,
mom can
they
take
all
the
have their
slot.
knives out for him. Like all of the people leaking are the Fox News staffers.
Yeah, so maybe his mom could take the slot. There were 10 Fox sources in that one story, 10 who were like, he's drunk before the morning show. I mean, that's a lot of sources. So, the just like having to have his mommy go out there and do this. Like, he's, I guess, going to go on Brett Baer later. It's like maybe he's going to bring his bottle with him. The whole thing is
full court press. Yeah,
to try to save this while it's collapsing. And then I'm sure we're going to talk about the thing about DeSantis. Now Trump's talking to DeSantis per Caputo's reporting. They've spoken about replacing him. But to me, the other thing I want to sit on, just beyond, like, there's so many elements to this I could talk about. So you guys can pick which way you want to go. Is Trump's brain mush that he thought these things were going to work? I think is an open question that gives me like a little bit of hope about a future dictatorships. Like I've downgraded my likelihood of a future dictatorship because it seems like Trump's brain might be mush. Number 2, these senators really annoy me. Like Sebastian has put this in. It's Lindsey Graham's like, some of this stuff is going to be difficult to get past. It's like, really, Lindsey? I actually don't think it's going to be that difficult for you if you need to. You've demonstrated in the past that you can get past some stuff like sexual assault and supporting someone to run the military who's a total clown. You've done that 3 times now. So I think you will get past it. So there's that element to it, and then there's just like the personal, like the deep sadness of Pete Hegseth's, like thinking that he was going to be able to like make this work. So all of that is just quite delicious for me.
But guys like Pete Hegseth always think they're able to make it work. I mean, you listen to the stuff he said about Trump 4 years ago, right? And I guess not 4 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And to have said those things and then think like, yeah, I can just reinvent myself as a guy who's fully on board with Trump. Like, they just think there's no accountability for any of this and they can always get away with everything. If you think you can show up drunk to work all the time, not saying he did, but allegedly, which, by the way, if I could just say, I want to peel back the curtain here. The level of drinking you need to participate in to shock people who work in cable news is very high. Look, Fox puts Judge Jeanine on air, like basically 3 sheets to the wind. And so for them to be like, yeah, this dude's got a real problem.
Well, also,
yikes.
like, guys, he's on in the morning. Like, if he's coming in drunk.
Maybe he's been playing through, though. It's a weekend morning. Big Friday
That's
night.
true.
New York City. The bars stay open. The megalomania, JVL, to your point, is a big one. This was my dad had this observation the other week when he was here, where he was just like, if you became president somehow, not likely, but you never know in this world, and we're like, hey, do you want to be Secretary of Treasury? That's finance guy. He's like, I'd be like, no, I cannot be the Secretary of Treasury. And it's a fairly accomplished man in finance, or more accomplished than Pete Hegseth. And it's like there is an element to megalomania really helps you in Trump world, because not having imposter syndrome is pretty key, because all of these people should have imposter syndrome. Like, literally every person that he's appointed should have imposter syndrome, except maybe Marco.
Yeah, that's about right.
Doug Burgum shouldn't have imposter syndrome. I think he'll be very competent in his role.
You asked, like, what was Trump thinking? And I'm not willing to go to Trump's brain as much, because I think Trump's view on this was, like, he can't lose either way. Right? If Hegseth goes down, Gates goes down, that doesn't hurt Trump. You will notice Donald Trump does not seem to be paying any political price for having nominated these crazy people who are flaming out. Right? I mean, his approval numbers are as high as they've ever been. Everybody is saying, like, oh, it's a normal presidential now. He gets his honeymoon. And he's not... You can imagine, right, the feeding frenzy if Joe Biden had nominated whoever the progressive equivalent of Pete Hegseth. Right?
Steve Schmidt.
Progressive. Steve Schmidt? Is that what you said?
No, just imagine that, right? Imagine Joe Biden picked like somebody from
Eric Adams,
MS, right? Or and then it came out like this would have been
weekend
like
MS.
The Biden transition is blowing up. It's a nightmare. It's blowing up on the launch pad, right? It's the Hindenburg. Can you believe it? And this is just like, yeah, whatever, man. Next man up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't. You don't think, though, you are correct that he is not paying a price with the voters. And he will never, because we live in hell. But there are other political objectives that an incoming president has. And I just like, does he really want to let fucking Mitch McConnell and these people smell blood in the water? Because like Mike Rounds is all of a sudden throwing his weight around on the Sunday show, being like, maybe I won't do it. Like, Trump needs to put these guys to heel. Like, if I was Trump, and we're just being purely Machiavellian, and you're keeping all your optionality, maybe you will consider running in 2028. Like worst case scenario, Trump, I want to bring all these guys to heel. Like, that strategy made sense to me. I'm going to pick Gates and Hegseth, and I'm going to humiliate these people, and they will lick my feet, and they will support the most preposterous defense secretary in the history of the republic, and they will like it. And instead, this is kind of like, well, whatever, I'm down in Mar-a-Lago. Whoever shows up on TV or comes to my parties, I'm going to nominate, and if they can't make it through, that's their problem, and maybe I'll do something else. It's just not a show of strength. And Trump is always about strength. And so to me, I think that we can at least, again, this is not to say I'm not worried about Trump, or that they won't do bad things, that Stephen Miller or Russ Vought are really scary, Kash Patel. Like, there's a lot of scary shit still out there. I just mean, like, I am reassessing my sense of, like, how there was always an idea of like there could be golfing checked out Trump that does bad things periodically, or there could be I'm really consolidating power to try to become Orban or Gaddafi Trump. And like, I don't know, the first month makes it seem like it's category 1, which is still a really bad category, which will lead to bad outcomes. That's all I'm saying.
I'll take it. I mean, if true, that would be the best news we've heard in 4 weeks.
And I think that we should be open. We should be open to both. This is like clown with a flamethrower territory. We should be open to the idea that because Trump is surrounding himself with what I think is very much shaping up to be like a reality TV show presidency, right? Like filled with incompetent characters, like people who are characters, which is why he's pulling so much from TV. And it's like a weird mix, right? Like in some places, I think he just doesn't care about, I don't know, certain positions that much. And so they have like serious people who are just in the pipeline. He doesn't care. He wants his goofy people though. He needs to reward people, but like maybe he doesn't care that much because mostly I do think that it is true that Donald Trump ran for president to stay out of jail. He ran for president so he wouldn't go to jail and because he thought he could win, right? With Joe Biden in this environment. And he wanted, but I don't know that now that he's won, like people might piss him off and he might love the power of like kneecapping them or whatever. But like, is he obsessed with every, twist and turn this time? Maybe not, because he really does just want to golf and be in charge and go to the dinners. Now, the people around him are going to form a really nice kleptocracy around him, right? They are very focused on enriching themselves. And I think for some of them, they may be motivated by like hatred and retribution, but I'm not sure that they're not more motivated by just like power and money and status and like all that garbage, which I want to.
There's a mix also.
But that's what I mean about a mix, right?
Who's like very ideological and has an ideological project, and so is Stephen Miller, and then there's Elon who just wants like money and to hang out and
And I think so I do think it's going to be a blend of these things. I think that's going to make it a little hard to be like, it's exactly all dangerous, or it's exactly all Project 2025 ideological, or it's exactly all farce, because it's going to be a mix of those things.
Yeah. This is certainly a farce. The Pete Hegseth part is certainly a farce, and I'm grateful for it.
Does anyone know how they got that email from his mother?
I do. Yeah. Oh, I've been going deep on Pete Hegseth. I got to tell you, it's the only thing.
Tell me more.
Like I said, bringing me joy. JVL, get your head out of the gutter. I just mean reading all the articles.
I just meant I want to hear all the things that you've heard about.
You
get your head out of the gutter.
I think that there's more stories to come, I guess, is one thing I'll say. There's some Twitter. The nice thing about staying on Twitter, not going to Blue Sky, is all the crazies are there, and so I get real insight into what's happening in the crazy discussion. And out there in the fever swamps, there's a heavy sense that the woman in Monterey is not the only woman for which Pete, who might come forward if Pete doesn't leave. But in addition to that, this email was, again, the mother at the time was on the side of the second wife. Because remember, when all this was when that email is sent, just to put this in a timeline for you, Pete was in the process of divorcing the second wife, who he'd had an affair with during his first marriage, and he had a child with the soon-to-be third wife, who was a very small baby, and he had just had the incident in Monterey where he says he had consensual sex with somebody after drunkenly shouting down a hotel staffer at 1:30 a.m. While his baby, his love child, was back at home with his mistress, and she says it was rape. So take either of those stories.
I mean, really, and he said, she said.
Yeah, and so it is in that period between the second and third wife where the divorce is happening, where this email is sent. And the mother is looking at her son and is like, you're a disaster, and I like this second wife, right? Like, I don't know, she's been here for Christmas, and I'm on her side, right? Like, that is the and so she sent the email to Pete and then forwarded it to wife 2, who apparently forwarded it to some other people. Don't know who. Those other people, one of those other people provided it to the New York Times. It's great stuff.
Because
DeSantis we had to get to, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. We should get to it. I just man, it's a brutal thing to have. I sort of don't wish it on anybody to have your personal parental things, you know.
I wish it on Pete Hegseth, but yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, okay. It was all right, go ahead. Let's move on to
what
DeSantis.
else? You have something else? No, it's okay. We're not.
So no, this is on the seventh day, God made a fighter, and that fighter is going to become Secretary of Defense, Ron DeSantis. He's going to be in the Pentagon eating pudding with his fingers. And I think this is wonderful.
Yeah.
In a way, because it is another final humiliation for this guy. Like, he's now going to have to go and, I mean, he hates Trump, clearly. He tried to kill Trump when he couldn't.
Not literally.
Not literally. Euphemistically. He tried to take over the party. And then when he did his thing, he even did the perfunctory, like everybody kisses the ring and they don't mean it, right? And then he kissed the ring after saying that. And now it's like, I guess I'll move up to Washington and go sit in the Pentagon and work for Trump and do his dirty work. It's kind of great.
I think it's great for a different reason. But I don't know, Sarah. What do you think?
You know, I like the comically and also the dangerous picks. Like Pete Hegseth, who clearly is violent and vile toward women, is a genuinely it's both a clown pick, but genuinely frightening for a military that has, you know, been grappling with sexual assault in the military, how women are treated in the military, and the idea that Pete Hegseth would send a message to military leadership and everybody else that, like, no, this is a culture that basically hates women. I found that genuinely frightening for the women in our military, and I wanted him nowhere near it. And like, this is where the DeSantis stuff is like, I can tell you, and anybody who listens to the show can hear all of the reasons why I think that Ron DeSantis is like a sucky person. But like, I think he'd be fine. It's the same way with Marco Rubio. Like, I can go on and on about spineless Marco, how Marco sold his soul, but like Marco Rubio at state, fine. Because these are people who will not be unserious in their jobs and not be frightening. I'm not frightened about DeSantis, and like, and so that's a good pick. Get DeSantis in there. I'm happy with it.
I differ with both of you slightly. I agree on some points and disagree on others.
Okay.
I think DeSantis is slightly frightening, just for different reasons than Hegseth, right? And so,
Same.
So I want to, like, the reason why DeSantis is a good pick for me is, like, to me, I'm concerned about the tail risk, worst case outcomes, worst case scenarios. Pete Hegseth will be a total toady if they fucking force him through after all of this. Like, Donald Trump will have him by the balls, and he'll like that, and he'll do whatever Donald Trump wants. And if Donald Trump wants to activate the military against our own citizens or whatever, Pete Hegseth is going to say, aye, aye, Captain, every single time. And if the transition between 28 and 29, there's like whatever worst case scenario you want to imagine there, Pete Hegseth will be on Donald Trump's side. Ron DeSanctimonious wants to be president in 2028. Trump will have created a team of rivals inside the White House that's not in the Lincoln sense, but in the sense that they are rivals for the next election. J.D. Vance,
ding,
Marco,
ding, ding.
and Ron DeSantis all think that they will be the true successor. It might be probably Tucker or somebody, but that will incentivize them to only do Trump's bidding until like 2027 and a half, you know? And so I think that there's scary stuff DeSantis could do. I do think DeSantis would be the type to use the military to target protesters, for example. He's shown that in Florida at different times. So I think that risk is still great. I don't really have particularly great feelings about his judgment about foreign affairs. Who knows? We'll see. Certainly it'd be better than Hegseth, though. And so, you know, I think going after woke generals or whatever, some woke generals are gonna get fired. Like, there'll still be bad stuff that's worth being really scared, or maybe not scared, but deeply concerned about with DeSantis. But like, those worst case scenarios really, I think, become harder to see if Trump has 3 wannabe successors in there.
So this is, I mean, my general view of these things is that anybody who comes into the administration with an independent power base is marginally less dangerous.
Yes.
Because they are thinking of their own, right? You can trust them to be self-interested.
Yeah, the ambition is good.
In ways, right. The ambition and now their power base is tiny compared to Trump's, but it's existing. Pete Hegseth doesn't have any, right? Pete Hegseth has
his
no
mom.
future.
His mom.
Right. And so that's why you could trust Hegseth to do anything. But whereas DeSantis, because he's thinking about his future and he wants to be president, you could maybe not trust, but you could reasonably hope that he might try to do things that would further his political career, which won't always be the things that Trump most wants.
Yeah. And some of those things will be bad.
Sometimes they won't.
Some of those things will be bad.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just not the worst.
Yeah. But that's where
I agree with that. It's pretty interesting they had a phone call, though, about it. I mean, just that is pretty delicious itself.
Absolutely wild. All right. And
but then Lara Trump's going to be the senator, right? Like,
can we talk about that?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Because
Let's talk about that.
this is why. Like, somebody might be like, well, they hate each other. Why would he put DeSantis in there? And it's like, well, if he gets
Lara
yeah,
a seat.
that's right.
Just to
What do we
explain,
think about
DeSantis
that?
gets to nominate the Senate, the vacancy. Rubio's leaving, so there's a vacancy. DeSantis gets to nominate that person. There's a long list of ambitious Florida politicians that were vying for this, and then the Trump team is like, actually, we want his daughter-in-law. And like DeSantis, based on all the reporting, is kind of like eye-rolling that notion. Like, I'm not going to do that. Now, all of a sudden, that seems like maybe a more appealing pick. You know, if DeSantis's bread is getting buttered out of that as well.
I gotta think that carries, this is me Lucy with the football, at least the potential for a political penalty, right? I mean,
yes, or breaking through,
right? And that's the kind of thing that's
ridiculous.
such obvious quid pro quo that I wouldn't bet that it would break through, but it might. Like, that's the kind of thing that might make voters look and go, wait, hold on, are you fucking kidding me? And this isn't the ambassadorship to France. This is Secretary of Defense. This is like an important job.
and the Senate. I'm going to put my idiot daughter-in-law in the Senate. And maybe people don't care about that. I don't know. But
No, they probably don't.
if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it's with Zbiotics. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. On a podcast recently where I was taking questions for people about how to handle the holidays, if there's high emotion in the home related to the election or anything else, frankly. And I said, I was uncharacteristic of myself. I was teetotaler Tim. I said, maybe less is more when it comes to drinking at Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner. And I stand by that. That's a contrarian view. I stand by it. But then I got to tell you, you got to pay that back. You got to pay yourself back. You earn those chits by being on good behavior at Thanksgiving. You got to pay yourself back at the Christmas parties with your friends. And that is something that I intend to do. But to be certain that I can be fresh for the podcast the next day, I'll be making Zbiotics probiotic pre-alcohol my first drink before I have several bourbon and Cokes. With the holiday season upon us, I know I'm going to be consuming a bit more alcohol than usual, as I just mentioned. With pre-alcohol, I can stay on track and not let the season throw me off course. Go to zbiotics.com/thenextlevel to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Next Level at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/nextlevel and use the code NEXTLEVEL at checkout for 15% off.
All right. Ukraine. Do we want to talk about Ukraine? I kind of want to talk about Ukraine, but
Okay.
I understand nobody cares.
Let's do brief on Ukraine, and then I have a brief... I had a conversation with Mikey Sherrill on the Daily Pod today. And
all right, and I want to preview the focus group pod.
And I have one... Okay, so just one... This will do 5 minutes on each. Or 3 minutes on each.
So Reuters has a report out with not plans exactly for peace in Ukraine, but concepts of plans for peace in Ukraine. Keith Kellogg, who's going to be Trump's Russia-Ukraine envoy, wants to freeze the battle lines where they are, issue a U.S. security guarantee, which Ukraine already had and didn't stop the invasion last time, but that's okay. And then promise no NATO. That's option one. J.D. Vance wants to have a demilitarized zone between the Russian and Ukrainian lines. Who would patrol this demilitarized zone? Who would enforce it? Who could say? But also no NATO. And then Rick Grinnell wants something like autonomous zones. It's not clear what that is. The key is all of these people want to make sure that Russia gets a guarantee that Ukraine will never join NATO. And they want to make sure that Russia gets all of Crimea, probably all of the Donbass, and big chunks of the Kherson region. Which, by the way, the Financial Times has a piece today about the Russian army using drones to hunt civilians in Kherson. The idea being they're literally just they'll just hover drones over a house and wait for somebody to come out and then try to blow that up, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to reduce the civilian population in Kherson to zero, because then it'll be easier to absorb that.
Repopulate with rescues.
Yeah. This is a dystopian type of war crime. But, nobody cares.
Yeah, it's horrific. I care. I'm not an expert on this, but it's interesting. So so Bill and I have talked about this a couple times, and I talked to Michael Weiss yesterday on the pod. An interesting thing in both situations is there's this assumption, and maybe there is maybe the assumption's right. Maybe there's a back channel between Trump and Putin, and they have a handshake deal. I don't fucking know, but there is an assumption that Putin is going to go along with the deal. Because Weiss's reporting is that the Ukrainians don't think that, right? And so the Ukrainians' optimistic view is that they think that Putin won't take the deal, will keep going, and that'll piss Trump off, and that'll win Trump to their side. I find that completely fanciful, but who the hell knows? I think that predicting what Trump is going to do in some of this stuff is folly. Bill's view was that Putin will say, F the deal, I don't actually want the deal, and then he'll press forward, and Trump will be like, fine, keep pressing forward, and that Putin will march, and that the Ukrainians will march forward without any weapons. So anyway, I just haven't heard a ton of discussion about that, right? Because it's mostly around these proposed deals, and it kind of presumes that Putin is going to say, cool, I'll take it, and maybe that is what he does. Maybe he takes it and then waits a little bit. And then challenges again, to see what you do this time. I don't know.
I would just say this. This is something I wrote about today. Ukraine is a democracy. They vote, right? And so any deal has to be politically saleable to the people of Ukraine. Just I would say to people in America, imagine that Canada invaded the United States and that Canada abducted 20,000 children and spirited them away into the great North and Canadian interior. They set up torture and rape rooms in Albany, New York and Syracuse. And they started flying drones over Detroit in an attempt to just systematically murder all the civilians in Detroit so they could sweep into it. And then America was offered a deal in which Canada got all of the territory it wanted, and the Americans were just supposed to suck on a lemon. Do you think the American public could possibly support anything short of total victory under those scenarios? Because I don't. I just think that the character of this war has made... And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not Ukrainian. I don't know. Maybe things are so bad that they'll be able to bite down on a stick.
People could want. I really don't know the answer to this, but you could see a world in which people want this to end, and they want it. There's just looking for a resolution. I will say one of the things you said in there that jumps out to me is that they want the promise of Ukraine not joining NATO, which means NATO's still around. And I think that the chances of any administration having push to let Ukraine into NATO under the circumstances is low. And so I'm glad that NATO still is playing a central role in the negotiation here. And obviously, look, I think it is among the most embarrassing things that Donald Trump is willing to hand over Ukraine, and always has been, and J.D. Vance is to Russia. And the extent to which the Republican Party is now quite aligned with this murderous dictator thug in Russia is one of the scariest things.
Tucker was in Moscow again this week.
He sure was.
I want to pick Sarah's brain on Mikey Sherrill, something she said.
Yeah.
Please,
and I
go
guess
ahead.
I need to characterize it, so I hope I'm being fair. I love Mikey Sherrill. Very
Same.
pro. She's very, we will listen
My
to the interview.
congresswoman.
She's very, yeah. Well, you should send her a note of support. She's running for governor, so we talked to Sam about that. But at the end, I asked her about the House, because she's still in the House, and how the House should deal with this. Because we had a final seat was called in California. The Republican Duarte lost, Democrat Gray won, so it's 220 to 215 is the breakdown. There'll be 3 Republicans for at least a period of time, at least till April. There'll be 2 Republicans out. I don't exactly know the timeline on replacing Elise Stefanik. So that takes them down to 217 to 215. So they can only lose one person. They've got to fund the government, and they've got the reauth of the Trump tax cuts coming, among everything else. They've only got 1 vote to lose. Even when in April, when they get the 3 back, then they'll only have what? They could lose 2. They can't lose 3. That's going to leave some tough votes for people, and they've got some crazy people in the caucus. So both on the far right and in the center, they've got major vulnerabilities. My question to Mikey Sherrill is, should the Democrats do anything to help them, or should they just hang her out to dry? And I got to say, I mean, she was torn. Everybody's torn. It's hard to give the answer, to be like, nope, let them do it. I'm not going to do my job as a representative. I didn't expect her to say that. But man, I got to say, I think the Democrats are going to have to look really deeply this time at not being a part of funding the government, which would be a radical shift from the last time when they bailed out Republicans every time. But Republicans have full control of Washington, and I want to start the dialogue now that I think that the Democrats should force the Republicans to fund the government by themselves. Sarah, obviously you're the angel on my shoulder on this, so I want to hear your take. I know what JVL thinks, so we don't really even need to ask him, but you're welcome to weigh in if you want after Sarah.
Yeah. So I do. I have two thoughts on this. One, JVL and I can't remember if we talked about this and disagreed about it, but I think one of the Democrats' things that they did that I wish they hadn't strategically was bail out Republicans in Arizona on the abortion law, right? And I think that and then this is another, right? I think that there are periods or instances when Democrats should stop bailing out Republicans when it's the Republicans' choice, right? Like the reason what Republicans are doing is they've got a bill that's insane, right? That they want to pass. I don't think Democrats should help them just to fund the government. I think that they should make Republicans have to justify what it is that they're doing, right? Make them make the case. And so I don't think they should bail them out. But I will say, and here's another piece of what you're saying. So I'm sorry to go back to the pardon thing, but there's a lot of people on the pardon discussion who are like, no, Joe Biden's fighting now. Gloves are off. We're fighting. And I'm like, that is an insane. I saw Jasmine Crockett on TV being like, we're not bringing a butter knife to a real fight anymore. And I was like, guys, that's not what this is. That is not fighting. Like fighting is being able to is what you're talking about. Fighting is being like, no, you guys are going to own every single one of these decisions. That's just Joe Biden getting his son out of Dodge. It's not fighting at all. I understand people are like, well, the way it's fighting is that we're all no one cares about norms anymore. No one cares about democracy. Let's not talk about that. Again, that's not fighting back. This is fighting back. Constitutional hardball in certain ways is fighting back. Letting Americans feel real pain as a result of their choice to elect Donald Trump and empower Republicans can be a way of fighting back. My answer to this question is, there should be things that Democrats choose to let Republicans die on, right? And
I'll give a specific example for both of you on this, just really tangible one. So again, the government funding is coming up. Democrats have been bailing Republicans out on this for years now because there's a huge segment of Republicans who won't vote to fund the government at all. I think the Democrats should say something like, you've got to fund things that are just unacceptable to them. If you fund Planned Parenthood and Ukraine and whatever, I don't know, whatever else you want to say, something that's popular, not sanctuary cities, but something that's popular, Planned Parenthood and Ukraine. And that's it. That's our line. All 215 of us have united on this. We will bail you out of this and help you get the votes, Mike Johnson, if you fund these three things, period. End of story. I think, and if you don't, then good luck. You can fund the government by yourself. Something like that. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I'm generally okay with it.
No, what?
No.
No votes.
I think Rorschach from you people will look up one day and ask me to save you, and I'll say no. This is I'm glad Mickey Sherrill didn't say, yeah, fuck it, they're on their own, because the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, right? You don't say we're gonna refuse to govern. Yeah. But what they should demand in return should be something that would give them structural power, and so something that the Republicans simply could not give them. Like, for instance, making DC a state. Right? And they should, so their ask should be an impossible ask, and an ask that is not like, that will do good things in the world, something that will give them more power. So I wrote about this today. Down in North Carolina, Republicans in the Senate, and I know we got to get out of here. The state Senate in North Carolina, they had a wipeout at the top of the ticket. Trump won, but then governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and superintendent of schools all went Democrat. And because of gerrymandering, Republicans in the state Senate have a huge majority. And so they are in the process of ramming through a bill which is going to strip these offices of power and move that power back to the state Senate, because that's a branch they can control. That's legal. That's hardball. That's fighting. And so that is exactly the kind of tactic that Democrats in Washington should be willing to employ. Play absolute hardball. That's what fighting. I agree completely on the idea. Like, people get caught up. They're like, because normies and people in the mainstream media are upset about it, that means that what he's doing is fighting. That's no. As you said, this is just like he's helping out his family. Yeah. And real fighting is using what is legally allowable to accumulate actual power. And they should make Republicans just lose political capital over and over and over and over again, because the only thing that matters is retaking the House in 2026. That's it.
What a great show. Totally.
All right.
Let's be clear. I'm ready for war footing. War footing. And this is why the reason I don't like the pardon, it makes our war footing just harder.
Weaker.
And people,
it doesn't really.
Well,
everyone will forget about this.
You know what? That's fine. If you don't, you know what? It matters to me.
At best, it's neutral.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just from take out the morals. Just from a war footing standpoint, the best case you can make is it's neutral.
Yeah, I agree.
Didn't help.
I agree.
Didn't help. The best case. I think it hurts, right? They're point to, but also, like, no, like I think that we have to be smart about what we say. You voted for this, now you get it, versus what's really dangerous and must be avoided and must be fought against. And also, I sort of agree with JVL. I don't think it's statehood. But I think making them swallow things that they will then hurt them when they run, is absolutely true. The one downside to this is a very early fight. I can't believe they left this for the first Trump thing to have to deal with the budget, because there's nothing worse than dealing with the budget. And so, make them pay.
We got to get out of here because you got to go do a thing, Sarah. But I have to tease focus group, because I'm on the focus group this week and I'm with you. And I'm sitting watching the focus groups last night, and there is a dude who explains, when asked why he voted for Trump, he's never voted for Trump before, but this time he voted for Trump. And it was because he owns a mansion on Martha's Vineyard, and a long time ago, Kamala Harris rented it because it's like a vacation property that he rents out. And she, in her rental contract, had said it was just going to be she and her sister. But then after she was there, his housekeeping staff told him that more than 2 of the beds in his mansion on Martha's Vineyard had been slept in. And so he is certain that she had more guests there than just 2. And the fact that she broke her legal contract with him is why he had to vote for Donald Trump.
USA, democracy.
That's the show coming on Saturday. Guys, this was great.
USA.
Sarah, you're my hero. Good luck, America.